the perfect moment. You improve your life by loving the journey that shapes you. And today, that journey can begin with English. Not because English is superior, not because it is magical, but because it is a bridge. A bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. A bridge between your thoughts and the world that deserves to hear them. Many of us carry beautiful ideas, powerful emotions, and deep intelligence, yet we live quietly because we feel unheard. English does not give you a voice. It reminds you that you already had one. When you begin to love English, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeing it as a subject and start seeing it as a companion. You no longer ask, what if I make a mistake? You begin to ask, what if I don't try? Loving English means allowing yourself to be a learner again, to stumble without shame, to grow without fear. Every mispronounced word becomes proof that you are brave enough to speak. Every broken sentence becomes evidence that you are moving forward, not backward. Growth is never loud, but it is always honest. English has a quiet power. It gives you access to conversations you were once afraid to join. It helps you sit at tables you once watched from a distance. It allows you to tell your story in rooms where your silence once spoke for you. And when you love English, you stop learning it just to impress others. You learn it to express yourself. You learn it to protect your dreams. You learn it because your thoughts deserve clarity and your ambitions deserve confidence. There will be days when learning feels heavy. Days when you compare yourself to others and feel small. But remember this, language is not a race, it is a relationship. And every relationship grows with patience, forgiveness, and commitment. Speak to yourself gently. Celebrate progress that no one else sees. 5 new words learned today can change one conversation tomorrow, and one conversation can change a life. Loving English is not about changing who you are. It is about expanding who you are. You do not lose your identity. When you learn a new language, you add another layer to it. You become more aware, more connected, more prepared. English gives you access to knowledge, opportunities, and global conversations. But more importantly, it gives you courage. The courage to raise your hand, the courage to apply, the courage to say, I belong here. So if you truly want to improve your life, don't force English into your routine. Invite it into your heart. Read with curiosity. Listen with patience. Speak with courage. And fail with grace. Love the process, because when you love English, you are not just learning a language. You are choosing growth, confidence, and hope. And that choice, made daily, has the power to transform your life. Silence is not always the absence of voice. Sometimes it is the presence of fear, hesitation, and the belief that our words are not good enough to be heard. Many people live their lives with thoughts locked inside them, not because they lack intelligence or ideas, but because they lack a bridge to express them confidently. English becomes that bridge, not by changing who you are, but by giving your inner world a way to step outside. When you begin learning English, you are not memorizing grammar rules, you are slowly unlocking doors that have been closed for years. Each new word becomes a key, each sentence a step forward from silence into expression. At first, the voice may tremble, the words may come out imperfect, but even that trembling voice carries power because it chooses to speak instead of hiding. Self-expression is deeply connected to self-worth. When you cannot express yourself, you begin to feel invisible, as if your presence does not matter. English helps break that invisibility. It allows you to introduce yourself without shrinking, to share opinions without apology, and to tell your story without feeling small. For many, English becomes the first language in which they dare to speak openly, not because their native language is weak, but because English offers distance from old fears and judgments. In that distance, confidence begins to grow. You start realizing that your accent is not a flaw. Your mistakes are not a failure. And your effort is something to be proud of. English also connects silence to opportunity. There are countless moments when people know the answer, have the skill, or carry the solution, yet remain quiet because they fear saying it wrong. English reduces that fear by offering structure, predictability, and global familiarity. As you practice, you begin to trust yourself. You raise your hand in a meeting. You speak in an interview. You write an email without overthinking every word. Slowly, the silence that once controlled you starts losing its grip, replaced by a voice that may not be perfect but is honest and alive. This bridge from silence to self-expression is not built overnight. It is built through small acts of courage, like speaking even when your heart races, or writing even when you doubt yourself. Every attempt strengthens the bridge. Every conversation makes it wider. Over time, English stops feeling like a foreign language and starts feeling like a safe space where you can experiment, grow, and be seen. You begin to realize that expression is not about sounding fluent. It is about being fearless enough to try. When silence breaks, something inside heals. You feel lighter, more present, more connected to the world around you. English does not erase your past or replace your identity. It carries it forward. It allows your experiences, struggles, dreams, and strengths to travel beyond your mind and reach others, turning quiet thoughts into shared understanding, unspoken emotions into spoken truth, and hidden potential into visible confidence. The learning process means shifting your focus from perfection to progress, from results to growth, and from pressure to patience. Many people approach English with fear, treating it like a test they must pass rather than a journey they are allowed to enjoy. When learning becomes only about fluency, certificates, or comparison, it quickly turns into a burden. But when you fall in love with the process itself, every small effort begins to matter. You stop asking how long it will take and start noticing how far you have already come. Each new word learned feels like a small victory, and each attempt to speak becomes an act of courage rather than a risk of failure. The learning process teaches lessons far beyond language. It teaches discipline when motivation fades, humility when mistakes appear, and resilience when progress feels slow. Loving the process means accepting that confusion is not a sign of weakness, but a sign that your brain is stretching. When you struggle to understand a sentence or pronounce a word, you are not failing, you are training. Just like muscles grow through resistance, confidence grows through discomfort. The process becomes meaningful when you realize that every challenge is shaping not just your English, but your mindset. When you love learning, mistakes lose their power to hurt you. They become teachers instead of enemies. You begin to laugh at errors instead of hiding from them. This shift is powerful because fear is the biggest barrier to growth. Once fear disappears, consistency becomes easier. You start reading not because you have to, but because you are curious. You listen not to copy others, but to understand and connect. You speak not to impress, but to express. In that moment, English stops being a heavy responsibility and becomes a part of your daily life. Loving the process also means being kind to yourself on slow days. There will be moments when you feel stuck, when words don't come easily, and when progress feels invisible. But growth often happens quietly. On such days, showing up matters more than performing well. Even 10 minutes of practice holds value when done with intention. The process teaches patience, reminding you that meaningful change does not happen overnight, but through repeated effort and belief in yourself. As you continue, something beautiful unfolds. You start recognizing your own strength. You realize that if you can stay committed to learning English despite fear, doubt, and distractions, you can apply the same discipline to other areas of life. The language becomes a mirror reflecting your determination and self-respect. Loving the process transforms learning from a task into a habit, from a struggle into a journey, and from a goal into a lifelong relationship that grows with you, shaping not just how you speak, but how you see yourself. Fear of mistakes has silenced more voices than lack of knowledge ever has. Many people understand English better than they speak it, not because they are incapable, but because they are afraid of being wrong. This fear creates a wall between learning and living, where thoughts stay trapped inside the mind. Turning that fear into fuel begins with a simple shift in perspective. A mistake is not a sign that you are failing, it is a sign that you are participating. Every person who speaks confidently today once mispronounced words, forgot grammar, and felt embarrassed, yet they moved forward because they allowed mistakes to teach instead of punish them. Mistakes are the language of growth. When you avoid them, you avoid progress. Each error highlights a gap, and every gap is an opportunity to improve. The moment you speak and make a mistake, your brain becomes alert, curious, and ready to learn. That moment stays with you longer than silent perfection ever could. Fear weakens when faced repeatedly, and confidence strengthens when action replaces hesitation. By speaking despite uncertainty, you train yourself to trust your ability to recover, correct, and continue. Turning fear into fuel also means changing how you talk to yourself. Instead of replaying mistakes with shame, you begin to acknowledge effort with pride. You stop asking, "Why did I say it wrong?" and start asking, "What did this teach me?" This internal dialogue shapes your learning experience. When you treat yourself with patience, mistakes lose their emotional weight and become neutral stepping stones. You start seeing yourself as a learner, not a failure, and that identity shift is powerful. The fear of mistakes often comes from the belief that others are judging you. In reality, most people are too focused on their own insecurities to judge yours. And even when judgment exists, it does not define your worth. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to speak despite it. Each time you choose to speak, fear loses authority over you. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes familiar, and what felt impossible becomes routine. As fear transforms into fuel, momentum builds. You begin to speak more, listen more actively, and engage more confidently. Mistakes no longer stop you, they push you forward. You realize that fluency is not born from silence, but from persistence. By embracing errors, you unlock a freedom that goes beyond language, a freedom to try, to grow, and to show up fully. In that space, English becomes not a test you fear failing, but a journey powered by courage and continuous effort. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you build piece by piece through experiences that challenge your comfort zone. For many people, English becomes one of those defining experiences. When you struggle to express yourself, you often begin to doubt your intelligence, your value, and even your identity. Learning English slowly reverses that damage. Every time you understand a sentence, respond in a conversation, or express an idea clearly, you reclaim a part of yourself that fear once took away. English becomes more than a skill. It becomes a tool that helps you stand a little taller in spaces where you once felt invisible. Language and identity are deeply connected. The way you speak often influences how you see yourself and how others perceive you. When you gain control over English, you begin to feel more present in global conversations. You stop shrinking your thoughts and start owning them. This does not mean abandoning your roots or replacing your native language. It means adding another voice to your identity, one that allows you to move confidently across different environments. You become someone who can adapt, connect, and communicate beyond familiar boundaries. Reclaiming confidence through English is a gradual process. At first, confidence shows up quietly. It appears when you stop overthinking every sentence. It grows when you speak without rehearsing in your head. It strengthens when you realize you can survive misunderstandings and still be understood. With time, these small moments add up. You start trusting yourself. You begin to believe that your voice matters, even if it carries an accent, even if it pauses. To find the right word, That belief reshapes how you show up in interviews, meetings, classrooms, and everyday conversations. English also helps you reclaim your story. Many people carry powerful experiences, struggles, and dreams, but lack the words to share them beyond a limited circle. When you learn English, your story travels further. You are no longer restricted by geography or background. You can explain who you are, where you come from, and what you stand for. This ability restores dignity and self-respect. You are no longer just reacting to life. You are narrating it on your own terms. As confidence grows, identity becomes clearer. You stop imitating others and start sounding like yourself. English stops being borrowed and becomes personalized. You choose words that reflect your values, tone that reflects your emotions, and expressions that reflect your truth. In this way, English does not change who you are. It reveals you. It helps you reclaim confidence that was hidden under fear, and an identity that was waiting to be heard, allowing you to step into the world with clarity, courage, and a renewed sense of self-worth. The world is full of doors, but not everyone knows how to open them. Many of those doors are not locked by lack of talent or ambition, but by lack of access. English becomes a key that fits into countless locks, allowing people to step beyond the limits of place, background, and circumstance. When you learn English, your world expands quietly, yet pow. You gain the ability to connect with people you may never meet in person, to understand perspectives different from your own, and to participate in conversations that cross borders and cultures. Opportunities often travel in a language that is widely understood, and English happens to be one of those languages. It gives you access to education, global knowledge, professional growth, and digital spaces that were once out of reach. From online courses to international communities, from job opportunities to creative platforms, English acts as a bridge between your potential and the world's possibilities. It does not guarantee success, but it removes one of the biggest barriers that stand in the way of it. Beyond practical benefits, English opens emotional and intellectual doors. It allows you to read stories written in different corners of the world, to listen to ideas shaped by diverse experiences, and to see life through lenses you may never have encountered. This exposure builds empathy and awareness. You begin to realize that struggles are shared, dreams are universal, and humanity is deeply connected. Language becomes a tool for understanding, not just communication. English also helps you move beyond labels and limitations placed on you by society. Where you come from matters, but it does not have to define how far you can go. With English, you are not confined to local expectations or narrow roles. You can introduce yourself on global platforms, express your opinions, and collaborate with people who value your skills rather than your background. This shift is empowering because it places control back in your hands. As borders fade through communication, confidence grows. You stop feeling like an outsider and start feeling like a participant. You realize that your voice can exist in global spaces without apology. English does not erase cultural identity. It carries it across boundaries. It allows you to represent yourself, your values, and your story to a wider audience, turning isolation into connection and possibility into reality. Through this language, doors do not just open outward into the world, they open inward, expanding belief in what you can become and how far your life can reach. Life rarely changes in one dramatic moment. It changes through small decisions, repeated consistently over time. The same is true when learning English. Many people wait for long hours, perfect schedules, or ideal motivation before they begin. But transformation does not require grand effort. It requires daily intention. Small actions, when done regularly, quietly shape habits, and habits shape futures. 5 minutes of reading, one short conversation, or a few new words practiced each day may seem insignificant. Yet these moments accumulate into powerful progress. Daily effort builds trust with yourself. When you show up for your learning every day, even in small ways, you send a message to your mind that growth matters. This consistency reduces fear and resistance. English stops feeling like a distant goal and starts becoming a familiar part of your routine. Over time, what once required effort begins to feel natural. Words come faster, understanding deepens, and confidence grows, not because of intensity, but because of persistence. Small efforts also make learning sustainable. When you push too hard, burnout follows. When you do too little, guilt appears. Daily manageable actions create balance. They allow you to learn without pressure and grow without exhaustion. On busy days, even listening to a short podcast or reading a paragraph keeps the connection alive. These moments remind you that progress does not disappear just because life gets busy. It simply slows and continues. The power of daily effort lies in its invisibility. You may not notice improvement from one day to the next, but weeks later, you understand more than before. Months later, you speak with ease. Years later, you look back and realize how far you have come. This gradual transformation builds patience and resilience, qualities that extend beyond language learning into every area of life. You learn to trust the process and respect time. Daily effort also teaches self-discipline and self-respect. Choosing to practice, even when motivation is low, strengthens character. You learn that commitment matters more than mood. This mindset shifts how you approach challenges. If you can stay consistent with English, you realize you can stay consistent with goals, relationships, and personal growth. The language becomes proof that small steps, taken faithfully, can lead to extraordinary change. Through daily effort, English does not just transform how you communicate, it transforms how you believe in yourself and your ability to build a better life one intentional day at a time. Loving English as an act of self-respect begins with recognizing that your growth matters and that your dreams deserve effort. When you choose to learn English, you are not chasing approval or trying to become someone else. You are investing in yourself. You are saying that your voice is worth developing, your future is worth preparing for, and your potential is worth nurturing. This mindset shifts learning from obligation to intention. English stops being something you must learn and becomes something you choose to learn out of care for who you are and who you want to become. Self-respect is reflected in the way you treat your time, your mind, and your abilities. When you dedicate time to learning English, even on difficult days, you are honoring your commitment to growth. You are refusing to settle for limitations created by fear or circumstance. C. Each word you learn is an act of belief. Each sentence you practice is a reminder that you are capable of improvement. This love for learning becomes a quiet form of hope, the kind that does not shout but continues steadily, even when progress feels slow. Hope grows when you see possibility beyond your present situation. English often represents that possibility. It carries the promise of connection, understanding, and opportunity. Loving English means believing that your life can expand, that your world does not have to stay small, and that new doors can open with patience and effort. This hope is not unrealistic optimism. It is grounded in action. Every day you practice, you reinforce the belief that change is possible and that you have the power to create it. Loving English also teaches you to be gentle with yourself. Self-respect does not mean perfection. It means compassion during struggle. When you forgive your mistakes and continue learning, you show maturity and strength. You stop punishing yourself for not knowing and start appreciating yourself for trying.